these Stay Connected webinars that we're able to offer weekly. And we're really thrilled about our content today that we get to share. I'm going to just start by thanking our conference partners who are responsible for these Stay Connected webinars. We all work together as a team to make this happen. Beyond School Bells, 21st Century Community Learning Centers After School Program, Nebraska Department of Education, Nebraska Extension, and Click to Science PD. Make sure you're using the chat room to communicate with us. We will make sure we're keeping an eye on that chat room. Periodically, the presenters might stop and ask a question, and in that case, you can go ahead and unmute yourself to respond. At the end of this webinar, I will walk you through the process for documenting your participation in order to get a certificate of attendance via email. So you can look forward to that. So today's webinar will focus on the Beyond School Bells Toolkit. This is a new toolkit that is available. And Jeff Cole will be presenting along with his team at Beyond School Bells that he'll be introducing in just a minute. So Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm going to mute myself and let you take it away.
Well, great, Kim. Thanks for the opportunity. And as always, thanks for the partnership with the 21st Century Program. As I kind of have been connecting with my colleagues across the country over these past several weeks, I'm reminded how fortunate we are to have such a quality 21st Century Program in place. And we're very fortunate in Nebraska to have a kind of a rich array of partners. And the group that I lead, Beyond School Bells, is Nebraska's statewide after-school network. And we're housed at Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, where our mission is to build partnerships that lead to policies and actions at both the state and local level that result in more high-quality, sustainable after-school and summer programs. So before I get started with our presentation on the toolkit, I wanted to see if I could share my screen here with some information I have about the Beyond School Bells program itself. So this is us. This is our website. So if you have any interest in getting more information about us, I recommend you go here. And I just wanted to draw your attention to a new feature of our website called Virtual Backpacks. So we have started this virtual backpack program, which provides a weekly e-blast on Monday mornings at 6 a.m. out to our community partners and our listserv actually across the state. So there are about 600 people on that listserv now. That each week we have a curated set of national, state, and local resources that are after school friendly, and in this world that we live in today, parent friendly. So these are things that can be done at little or no cost with youth across the state who are learning from home. So as I like to say, all of learning right now is out of school time learning, and we want to do what we can to support that great learning that's going on in Nebraska. So wanted to kind of share that before we jump into our newest item, which is called Toolkit. And Toolkit is a new online resource. We just launched it yesterday in our newsletter that went out to our partners, really designed to help communities that were just thinking about starting after school and summer programs. And as all of us who've been through that process before know, it's a pretty challenging process to think about all the things that one needs to do to start a high quality, sustainable after school program in your community. So again, in partnership with the Nebraska Department of Education, we received a grant to launch what we were calling Nebraska's ELO Design Initiative, excuse me, Design Challenge, that was helping communities get after school programs started from scratch. And so we tried to capture those experiences excuse me. This is not a recurring feature, and I don't have a temperature. Um, but we tried to capture those experiences we were having with these communities, as well as experiences from around the country, to develop a toolkit that would help facilitate and jumpstart that process in communities across Nebraska. So one thing just to be very clear about, this is a product that was built by and intended for Nebraskans. We've seen a lot of great material about after-school programs coming out of LA or Chicago or New York City, and despite how good some of those resources may be, they sometimes fall flat when they don't reflect the realities that we have in our communities across the state. So we really wanted to, again, engage our partners here in Nebraska to come up with a toolkit that would really help to launch after school and summer programs in Nebraska. So with that as an introduction, I'm going to jump right into it. As Kim mentioned before, I'm going to be joined later on by my colleagues Jennifer Jones and Sandy Day to walk through specific elements of the way we organize toolkit. But I will get us started. And if you kind of look at toolkit, it's really organized around 4 buckets: thinking, starting, improving, and sustaining. And within those 4 buckets, there's subcategories that allow you to kind of go into some more depth with the material that we think are important. So I'm going to start off with thinking. So if you go into the thinking button, it brings you into this set of resources focusing on guidelines. So these are, the basics of what makes up a quality after school and summer programs. These are things that we have collected from our own partners and our own experiences in Nebraska, as well as some of the national resources we think are particularly good at identifying elements of a quality after school program. No need for communities to start this from scratch. This is well-traveled territory. And so we feel like, by providing some of these opportunities to share best practices, this is like an A to Z compilation of terms that come up in after school and summer programs. Nobody needs to do this themselves when we can kind of build on what's already available. Similarly with the work at the national level. One of the key things that we wanted to do was give people a sense of what these programs could cost. And as we were thinking about starting new programs in Nebraska, we realized that the communities that'll be starting this from scratch are largely rural communities. So we, again, wanted to provide an example of possible models, not based on costs in Chicago, not based on costs in Dallas, but based on actual insight we got from our Nebraska partners. So we developed some mock-ups of what budgets might look like, and included a comparison of different levels of budget. So none of these are Cadillac budgets. Let's just be very clear about that. We wanted to provide tools for programs that were starting from scratch without grant dollars. So how could you initiate a program from scratch, thinking about serving between 25 and 75 students in your community's after school programs? We thought this would be an important tool or series of tools within the funding structure piece that will be really important for communities to think about as they're just starting to grapple with the idea of launching their community's after school program. The one I wanted to spend a little bit more time on is this planning section. So as you're thinking about your program, there are lots of steps one needs to take, to go through that process. So we've identified, through lots of work with lots of Nebraska communities, a series of steps that one needs to go through in order to launch a high quality, locally sustainable program. And we also had a lot of support from our national partners in this. This is something we've been working on actually for years at Beyond School Bell, and Toolbox provided a nice one-stop place for us to dump some of this material. So, as you're looking at and kind of going through the site at your own leisure, there's a series of individual PDFs like those cost estimates that we just looked at, but then there's also toolkits embedded within toolkit. So this is a toolkit that really talks about kind of mapping out and laying the groundwork for your community's program. So a lot of practical tools that really give you some hands-on guidance in starting a program and just going through a planning process with timelines and committee structures, those kinds of things. So we think this will be an effective kind of roadmap for people. But you know, in addition to providing a roadmap, we wanted to provide some tools that you could use to go along with it. There's no need that you have to, you know, create your own roadmap. There are steps that are that we can kind of share with you. So in addition to a guide, there's also this series of toolkits that you can use. So forms that you can adapt for your community's use to kind of begin that process of identifying what it is you want your community's after-school program to be known for. Who are those local stakeholders you need to engage in the process? You know, how can you take a needs assessment and identify that need from parents and other stakeholders in your communities? You don't need to come up with these questions on your own. Many people have done this before. This is a place for you to go and benefit from that information. So I think this gives you a feel for what we're trying to capture with Toolkit, you know, both a guide for kind of walking through the process of thinking about, in this case, an after-school program, but then those real-world hands-on tools that you can use to actually move this process forward in your community. So that's, you know, kind of the beginning of where we started with Toolkit, but we realized that you need to go much further in your community to help develop your unique approach. So I'm going to turn it over now to Jennifer Jones, who's a key staff person here at Beyond School Bells, who's kind of been our leader in working with communities across the state and capturing some of this to kind of continue walking through the tools that we have in Toolkit. So Jennifer.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I would like to just kind of walk through this next section of the toolkit, and I'm going to try to share my screen here. One second. Why is it not letting me do that? Okay, there we go. So we're at, Jeff just walked through the thinking section and wanted to just walk through the starting section of our toolkit and really divided it into 3 areas, which was operational, staffing, and professional development. I just want to take a few minutes to look at each of these sections. And with our operational, there is a full practitioner's guide to start out with. And this is kind of what we often think of if you want to dive into like a 75-page document, then there it is right there. And it's a great national resource. And it really just lays out in great detail the building blocks and then continuing to manage an after-school program after you've started it. And so that's definitely one that we recommend. But we also wanted to spend time with the policies and procedures and really provide documents that could be customizable for programs. And so each one of these, you can see like the parent handbook, registration forms, staff handbooks, all of those are Word documents, which we purposely created so that a program can get on and customize it to their own program, that you don't need to completely start from scratch. These are all Nebraska documents, which I really find valuable. Like, we were given permission by different programs to use them, and so we took out, you know, their own logos and their own program names, but these are registration forms and staff manuals that are being used by Nebraska programs right now. So they're very applicable, and you know, even looking through them, I know a number of people, as we are not directly working with students right now, have a lot of planning time on their hands. And I think even if there's some things that you wanted to revamp, if you currently have a, you know, with your program, wanting to relook at a staff handbook, or what does your registration form look like? I encourage you to really dive into these documents because they're very user-friendly, and this could be a great time to do some of that planning. The next thing to look at is improving. And these are I'm sorry, starting. I get dizzy on the screen. You know, here we created it and I still got to get more familiar with our own toolkit. Is the staffing section. And this just continues what we just talked about in the operational section, where we have full Word documents for job descriptions and application forms, as well as interviewing and hiring documents. So once again, these are fully customizable, and we really feel like this is an incredible resource that that programs can use as they're starting up, or that can currently use that are already in progress and already in action right now. And the final section is just how do we build and motivate our staff? And these are some really great documents that we condensed from the National After School Association. So building a strong staff team. They had put a great document together, but it was quite long. And so we really wanted to highlight the key elements of it. So these are their materials, but we pulled out just some of the key points. And I think that these are great things to revisit for current programs, and just to know for building blocks for those programs that are starting out. And then we also have another document that's similar, that is how do you, once you have created your staff team, how do you keep them motivated? In the final section of our starting part of the toolkit is professional development. And I really just wanted to take a minute to look at the leadership section of this website. As Jeff said, we really spent a great deal of time making this a Nebraska toolkit, that it is, you know, it's going to be usable for people across the country, but we really made this focused on how do you utilize this as a Nebraska after school program or a Nebraska summer program. And so this leadership professional development, these have a lot of great tips that come directly from Nebraska after school directors. And we really spent a lot of time talking with them and finding out, you know, if they could do it all over again, what would they want to share with people? And so this really outlines that, like before the program begins, the first day of the program, and so on. So it really is invaluable just to kind of get their insights, and that we captured those. And so I find that to be, you know, a really great resource. And along the lines, the same with starting on the right note, it's really like, how do you develop great connections in the schools and with teachers and with community leaders? And so these are documents, same as with staff, that are both national and Nebraska based. And the family engagement, we have some really wonderful tools on like how are you building relationships with families, and that's something that we could even kind of revisit during this time right now. And so I just encourage you to dive into these, and you know, if you have other insights in how we can continue to build into these sections, we want to hear from you, as this will just be an ongoing toolkit that we'll continue to build. So with that, I will turn it back over to Jeff.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. And I think that really is a good point. One of the things we really wanted to do with Toolkit is to capture that voice from the field. So I think it's a really good opportunity for us to kind of showcase what we've learned and what we know is going on in Nebraska, which is really some high quality after school programs and really excellent leadership, as reflected by those of you on the call. So I think, Jennifer, you need to end your screen share, and we'll flip it over to Sandy. Sandy Day is a consultant working for Beyond School Bells, and she's really been central to us developing a much more quality management system. So she's been very good on improving our program. So we asked her to step in and lead the discussion on improving, which is a core feature of Toolkit. So Sandy.
Thank you, Jeff. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a really, really great day. let me get up on the screen what I want up on the screen here, and we'll get going. And that's, of course, not it. There it is. Okay, so just you guys, I may not have met most of you, but if you listen to our presentation a little bit yesterday, or even I met lots of you at the Stay Connected, Get Connected conference last October, when we presented some PBS materials and some Sesame Street and Communities materials. Prior to that, though, I spent 5.5 years being the 21st Century Community Learning Center Director in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Of their 15 schools, 11 of them had programming for CLCs, and they were K-12. And I'm here to tell you that this website right here is worth its weight in gold. That's all I have to say. I mean, so, and the way this is set up and the way this is rolling out, you were thinking about in year one, planning your program, year 1 to year 2, you're starting your program, and now you're in year 3, you're really wanting to improve your program. So I got the best bucket of all, you guys, and there's a bunch here. We don't have time to do all of these different buckets, but I do want to highlight 2 and then deep into just the one of them, if you don't mind. Best practices, I want to click there. These are the 4 buckets for improving your program. This is a 14-page, literally it is a roadmap, you guys, of everything. This first topic here is college career readiness. They talk about summer learning, STEM, arts, family engagement, professional development, and appraising your staff. There's like 7, I don't think I read all 7, but anyway, there are 7 topics addressed here. Page 1 of the PDF of that particular topic is going to be, what does it look like, best practice on the ground. This is probably the best of this particular document, is how this, they're calling it a program worksheet, is set up so that you can self-assess and make improvements. One of the reasons I love this is it is literally in lockstep with some of the documents that I know Jan's team are using when they're assessing our programs in year 3. There's what does exceed standard look like, and then there's meet standard, basically does not meet standard, and then, oh boy, if we really need to make some changes right away, what are those? So the way, again, the way this is set up is set up really to reflect, just as it says, best practices, and it is literally the roadmap that you need to make certain that your programs are on the way to be the best they can. I wanted to spend a couple minutes in successful strategies, if you don't mind. These are excellent. These are 8 different strategies developed across our state with partners. So you'll see, let's say we're going to utilize college work study. You'll notice that this set of strategies comes to us from our Shadron after school programs. All of these are 1-page documents that talk about what does it look like and how can we make it better. I wanted to show you a couple things. So a lot of the topics, for example, Lights On planning gets you a timeline, 3 months out, 2 months out, 1 month out, and then follow up and the helpful advice behind that. I just, again, for any program starting out or any program at all, this is just remarkable. This marketing your program handout, man, oh man, I just love the people in North Platte. They were so proactive when they knew they were going to start a new program. They were proactive enough to reach out to media outlets ahead of time, and they noticed in doing that proactive approach that after time, the media folks would start reaching out to them to say, hey, what's coming up this summer? Hey, what's coming up next fall? So I thought that was some really good advice on how to market your program in a little different fashion. And again, there's 4 or 5 more topics here. Again, these are all developed by our local partners. You're gonna love them. Okay, wanna know my favorite part? My favorite sub bucket is the programming bucket. Okay, and why is that, Sandy Day? Because this is where I get to spend my time. I get to be fortunate enough to work with these amazing college kids and our community partners to develop after-school content that is aligned to state standards and is based on what? F-U-N. We're going to have fun. So this is where you will find all of that kind of content that's been developed by the design studios. So you probably recognize So You Want to Be A. That is currently in 3.0 version, so it has been refined a couple of times since maybe you saw it first. As you know, all of our curriculum is absolutely free. The only thing that we ask is that you please give us some feedback, and here's where you would get that feedback from. It's a Word document, and you would just send it to us. Okay. Sorry about that, wrong one. The field journal, I have not used personally, but it sounds like it was a student tool that was used in the past. These last items here are brand new curriculum, and we suggest that you dig into there and take a look at what all is there. For example, the aviation unit. Just real quickly, and then I'll get out of here. But basically, there are 4 pieces of aviation lessons. The first one's about kites, and then on from there. And then if you want to do the extended wind energy piece, sorry, I'm in the wrong unit. The extended aviation piece, skip that. Just cross that right off of your brain. It's the wind energy. We have some basic units here, and you might have seen them in the backpack. And then you can get the extended wind energy here. And then last week, as you know, we talked about the Truth-on 3-Day. And then I'm going to quickly just say, God, spend some time in the STEM learning category. There are like 11 topics here. Some of these are infographics for your partners. For example, why is STEM in after school important at all? Here's a wonderful collection of infographics that specifically specifically outlines what's going on either across America, or the second one in Nebraska. There are some actual links to the professional resources for Click to Science, but then there are also some other documents in here where that specifically talk about STEM and after school. I guess that was really kind of going really fast, but you've got time. Jennifer said it very well. I mean, if maybe there's one thing that this is all doing for us, is giving us time to stop and think and reflect and figure out ways to improve the programs that we have. This bucket, I can't say enough about it. This bucket is worth its weight in gold. I'm going to stop sharing at this point, and then I'm going to hand it back over to Jeff.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sandy. And I think your enthusiasm is contagious. It's been a pleasure working with you to kind of refine some of these tools, and we're super excited to be able to share them with others. So just picking up on your point, that STEM resource page really does reflect a lot of where Beyond School Bells has been putting our energy over the past 5 years, and will continue to do so. So I encourage you to kind of check out what we've got now, but don't make it a one-time drive-by. We're going to be continuing to update that site with lots of additional material as we become, as we kind of develop some more tools. So the last piece of Toolkit is our sustainability page. So let me see, get that back up. Where is that? There we go. So yeah, sustaining programs, it's great if you build a good program. Doesn't do a lot of good unless you can keep it going. And at Beyond School Bells, we really believe that successful programs are built on strong community partnerships. If people don't know the great work that you're doing, as we like to say, after school programs suffer from terminal modesty. You need to get the word out about what you're doing. And again, right now, I think people are more aware of the power and the value of out-of-school time learning than perhaps ever before. So I think we're in a good spot to shine the spotlight on what we're doing, and really encourage you to do so if you want to sustain your program. So Toolkit was really designed to embed that in people's thinking from the beginning. And so we spend some time talking about partnerships. We developed some tools you can use to identify who those partners are, are, as we did previously, there's some fill in the blank documents you can use to kind of help walk you through that process, and encourage you to kind of explore those as you're kind of getting comfortable with the tool. It kind of goes through, again, many communities' experience with developing successful partnerships and kind of capturing those in a little spreadsheet type format that allows you to kind of document and work through different partnership opportunities. Also allows you to think about different resources, again, from a local, state, national kind of hierarchy, kind of walking you through what some of those pieces might look like. Again, toolkits embedded in toolkit. This is another document that really kind of walks you through in a step-by-step fashion of who some of those partners what may be, doing a SWOT analysis, establishing a council, those basic things that are very challenging to do if you're doing them from scratch, but a lot easier when you can follow kind of a playbook on how that should lay out. Other piece, as I mentioned, we have spent a lot of time at Beyond School Bells developing tools to help communities market and position their programs within a pretty crowded space. So, we've, again, benefiting from the work that communities across Nebraska have done at getting local press coverage, creating events that attract local political leaders, reaching out to businesses, and have captured that in this toolkit that really kind of walks you through the basics that you need to do to be successful. So excited about the opportunity to share that. And then lastly, messaging tools. And kind of as Sandy mentioned in her review of the improving section, we have done a lot of work in Nebraska at helping to develop some easy to understand tools for making the case for after school in Nebraska. So, you don't need to do that again. We've got a good marketing department here at Nebraska Children that have been able to kind of synthesize some of these key points. We've been able to bring in some of the key talking points that our national partners have developed that have been proven to help make the case for this kind of work across the country, and given it that Nebraska spin, pulling in voices from people like Kathy Lang, the director of the Nebraska Business Development Center. So you have other champions advocating for the work that you're doing. So really encourage you to explore this section. Also, just quickly, there's some PowerPoints that we developed that can be customizable for your community. So we start off with some instructions on how you can use this in your community. This was one that we, were thinking about, or that we structured for presentations to school boards. So oftentimes school board members can be extremely powerful champions for after school and summer programs. So we developed kind of a standard template you can use to customize presentations to your community school boards. And again, this is all within the framework of sustaining your work. And I think one of the things we've really realized in our current challenging environment is that, schools and school districts and school boards can be extremely powerful champions for this work when, we're faced with unexpected challenges. So, with that, I think, that's the core piece of toolkit that we wanted to kind of walk everyone through. As we mentioned at the beginning, this was designed for communities that are just getting started. So people who are just starting to think about beginning after school programs. However, we realize it's a valuable tool really for anyone involved in this work. And as Jennifer mentioned, it's our hope that you'll have some opportunities to review this material and maybe use some of the tools to adapt existing practices, maybe use some of the outreach materials to help spread the word about the amazing work that you're doing in your after school program. Importantly, customize this stuff for yourself. We developed it as templates and designed it in a way and easily downloadable Word documents that you can, or PowerPoints that you can change yourself. We tried to stay away from PDFs as much as possible for materials that needed to be customized, because we know that can be a challenge for some sites. So for those materials that can be customizable, we made those in Word documents to ease the customization of those tools. And, you know, again, so grateful to everybody in Nebraska that kind of opened up their own toolkits and shared their helpful hints and best practices with us. That is what made this possible. It helped us kind of put our hands around the work that we are able to do at a statewide basis. We're not in the trenches doing this work every day like you guys are. So it clearly would not have been possible without your contributions. And just lastly, again, as Jennifer noted, this is not a set in stone one-time project. We want to continue working to develop toolkit and really encourage you to send us your suggestions. It's going to be something that's going to evolve, you know, pretty dramatically, we would imagine, over the next year, and really encourage you to be our partners in that evolution. So please do send us any ideas, recommendation, corrections, you know, whatever reaction you have to Toolkit, we'll be excited to incorporate that into future versions. So again, really appreciate this opportunity, Kim and Jan, to share this with this audience. We're excited about the future. To be honest, you know, things are pretty bleak. It's easy to get depressed right now, but I think the future is bright, and the work that you're doing is crucial to establishing, you know, the kind of competencies and skills and outlooks and attitudes that young Nebraskans need in order to be successful. So lastly, just thank all of you for the work that you're doing in communities across the state. And we're very grateful to the work that you're doing and your dedication even in these difficult times. So thanks, Kim. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and for that message of hope. We really, we all need that and appreciate it. Thanks to Jeff and Jennifer and Sandy. That toolkit looks fabulous, and we're really excited to spend some more time digging in and taking a look at all of the various resources you've generously provided. We did want to take just a minute to go back to the StayConnected site. Jan is going to pull that up for us. And I want to make sure everybody knows how to document your participation in the webinars and then obtain a certificate of participation, because we know that you are all keeping track of your hours of PD. So this is the StayConnected site, and you can see in that top box, first of all, almost at the top, please fill out this form. If you want to be added to our email list, please click there and add your information. I think I successfully added everybody who put in the chat they wanted me to add them last week, but go ahead and feel free to add yourself. And then in the bottom section of that box, it says report participation in each webinar here. So click on that. Sherry Landis, our assistant at the 21st Century office, created this. We really appreciate all of her work, closed captioning videos and creating forms. She's fabulous. So this is a really easy form. Fill this out for each webinar that you either join live, or if you watch the recording down the road, that would count too. So fill this out. We just need to know your name, your email address, your program or organization name. Click the webinar that you were able to join, view, participate in. We only ask 2 questions. What is a key takeaway from watching that webinar? And then how will you utilize the information that you learned? So once you submit that form, Sherry will compile all of the information that you send, and you will receive an electronic version of a certificate that is signed, and that will count toward credit. And then you can share that with your program leader in whatever way you typically do. So let us know if you need anything else from us that we can do. We hope that this will be helpful. We have a schedule. We will be adding to it. There might be changes along the way. So refer to this website for all the updates. The recordings of existing webinars that we've already done are there for the first two. We're behind just a little bit, but we're getting a little faster at the closed captioning. So we'll add Saunders from last week soon, and now this Toolbox webinar. I think unless you have some questions, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see descriptions and recordings for those webinars that we've already had. Next week, we hope you're able to join us. We are lucky to have Jessie Coffey. She's with the Nebraska Department of Education, and she will be sharing resources around the whole child. And she has many really fabulous resources that support the whole child, families, educators, health and wellness, which we all really need right now. So we hope you'll join us next Thursday on April 16th. Let us know if you have any questions. I'm not sure, I'm not looking in the chat box. So if anybody has a question, maybe Sandra or Jan will let us know. Otherwise, feel free to stay in touch with us. Again, thanks to our presenters, Jeff, Jennifer, and Sandy today. We really appreciate the resources you were able to share.
Kim, there aren't any questions in the chat box. There are a few times I tried to share links as people were talking. So if you're looking for a URL for something that people talked about, look through the chat box. Those are there, but no questions.
And then Jeff, I'm sure Jeff will let us share the links to all the information he shared today along with the recording of this webinar.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Stay healthy and enjoy the sunshine today. At least in Lincoln, we have some sunshine today. So thanks very much. We'll see you next week. Bye.